Come blue and white and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Carlisle United, the team that's on the ball. Carlisle United, the team for one and all. You're looking good and we're with you all the way. You'll hear us singing every time you
Hello everyone and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, a podcast focusing on the trials and tribulations of Carlisle United Football Club. From Archie Blue to Martin Butler and Christian Ribeiro to Jamie Robinson, we've got it covered. This is episode 17 and today we're going to be looking back at the eventful midweek win over Morecambe, previewing this weekend's long trip down to Devon to take on Exeter City, discussing some of the latest news around Brunton Park and our usual look at what Exeter United players have been getting up to. I'm joined in this episode by one of my regular co-hosts and today it's Dan. How's it going, mate?
Yeah, not bad. All the better for 3 more points midweek.
Yeah, can't really grumble, can you? Really, maybe not playing that well at the moment, but you know what? They're grinding out results, and that's the key thing, isn't it? At this stage.
Yeah, I think we would have took 4 points from the 2 games. That's what we've got. Happy days.
Definitely. The 4 names today. Do you know what connects them? I think it's a bit obvious, isn't it?
Exeter.
Yep. So they've all played for United and Exeter.
Yeah.
Interestingly, though, as well, the first 2, Archie Blue and Martin Butler, are also one-game wonders.
Archie Blue's a great name, isn't it?
Brilliant name for a football, isn't it? Superb.
Yeah, and Christian Ribeiro, who was last seen on Homes Under the Hammer.
Indeed he was. Martin Butler, a little bit before my time. Did you see him play, I think, possibly? Would have been around about your time?
You said I'm old. Yeah, I certainly remember the name, but no, he certainly didn't do much that stands out for me.
No. Okay, Dan, let's get straight into it then. Let's get into the news. So, first one to start this week is the obvious one, isn't it? United have been drawn away from home in the opening round of the FA Cup to face Southern League side Hayes and Yeading United. They're based in the London borough of Hillingdon, I think it is.
Yes.
Just north of Heathrow, isn't it, I think?
Yeah, basically, if you go down the A40, Target roundabout and turn right, it's before you get to Heathrow, basically.
Yeah. So yeah, the game's due to be played on the weekend of the 7th and 8th of November. And there's a decent chance, I would say at least 50-50, that we're going to be on telly. Because when you read the FA website, now it's not very clear about how this works, but it says that up to 16 games are going to be shown on telly. Now, this may include those BBC final score ones they've had where they just show the goals from the games.
Yeah, I think last year there was either 5 or 6 first round games shown across BBC and BT.
Yeah.
And I think there was 9 or 10 on that Sunday show. So
there was only one on BBC, wasn't it? And that was our game, the opening round last year.
Yeah.
So all the other 5 are on BT. So when you look at the games, you think there's a decent chance there could be no fans at the first round games, is there, Dan? I think we sort of been wondering about this for the last few weeks with the announcement.
Yeah, under the rules in the qualifying rounds, there would have been allowed home fans, but the FA have taken the decision because the so-called elite level clubs have come in now that it's just across the board, no fans at all. So
I can understand why they've done that because fans are so desperate to go to games. I think it could have caused a few issues potentially with people going to games when they probably shouldn't. So
yeah. I mean, also talking about TV, I tweeted a list of about 9 games that obviously stood out from the old non-league versus league. I'd be amazed if FC United v Doncaster doesn't feature.
Of course it will.
Tunbridge Angels versus Bradford City.
Yep.
And Eastbourne Borough versus Blackpool. They're the 3 that really, really stand out. And then we're sort of in the next tier. There's another 6 I got, which was Oxford City versus Northampton, Malden and Tiptree versus Morecambe, Hayes and Yeading versus ourselves, Eastleigh versus Milton Keynes, Borehamwood v Southend, and Hampton and Richmond versus Oldham. Now, Hampton and Richmond played Oldham last year in the first round on TV, so that maybe won't get it. Possibly. And did Malden and Tiptree feature on telly last season?
Maybe. I can't remember exactly. But what I would say is that I'd imagine there'd be strong contention for the Southend and Northampton games to be on telly because they're both struggling. And I think maybe the TV executives are looking well, there's a chance of an upset there possibly.
Yeah.
Which might work, unfortunately, might work against us because they're playing quite well at the moment. So
Yeah.
Interesting game, isn't it, Hazy? I think this is only the second time they've ever got to the first round. I think it was against Wickham a few years ago and they only lost 2-1. But I think this is only the second time they've managed it from what I can gather. But obviously we'll do a full preview on that next week, won't we? We'll get a bit more information about them and maybe try and get someone from down that way to speak to us maybe and give us a bit of a lowdown on them ex-United players who've played for Hayes and Yedding.
Oh, there was one and it's escaped my mind now. Oh, who was it? Give me 1 minute and I'll do you know it?
I do know, yeah.
Yeah, we'll say it then. Save me searching for it.
Joanne
Yinser, that was it, yeah.
No, there's a...
And Magnus Norman was on loan for a little bit, apparently.
Yes. Yeah. I don't think he played, though, did he?
No, I think he got an injury when he was there, but...
Okay, so that's FA Cup. We'll let you know as soon as we know exactly when the game's going to be played.
And we'll probably do a bit more in depth, obviously, next week before that game.
Definitely. It's a weird one, isn't it? Because obviously we're waiting to see whether the game's going to be a live stream or not. I'd imagine maybe if the game is one of those ones that's selected for the BBC to cover on Final Score, I wonder if they might just offer a free stream to that game on their website, possibly. I wonder if that's what they might look to do.
Yeah, I would imagine the FA they normally say by the Friday the week before, so by the time this comes out tomorrow, we're recording on Thursday afternoon at the moment. By the time it comes out tomorrow, it could well be that the TV picks are known. Yeah, because obviously TV companies need to get the schedules sorted.
Yeah, it's strange. Although they need to get the schedule sorted, it's not quite as urgent as normal. When normally, obviously, so fans can get to games. But second bit of news: international call-ups. So we've got another one, Dan. Following on from Coyote and Dewhurst recently, Dean Furman has been recalled by the South Africa for their back-to-back 2021 Africa Cup of Nations qualifiers against Sao Tome and Principe. Now there's a popular name from Pointless Answers, isn't it, Dan, that one?
Speaking of Pointless, it's 6 years ago today that I was on.
Was it 6 years ago today?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It was aired 6 years ago today.
Incredible. Yeah. We'll have to talk about that one day on the episodes because you never miss a chance to tell anyone, do you?
No, too right.
As you should do.
But Dean Furman, I think he's been captain in the last couple of years for South Africa, and he'll probably. There's a couple of players based in the UK going over. Rangers' new signing. I'm not in. I'll have to try and look up his name again to get it exactly right, but his name is. Because
there's a few. I think there's one from Belgium. One of the keepers is from Belgium, isn't he?
Yeah.
There's one from Cincinnati.
It's not. My phone's not loading up at the moment. But Bongu Zuma, I think it was.
That sounds like a made-up name the way you were saying.
Yeah,
that,
I know.
But yes,
Bongani Zungu. That's it.
Bongani, there you go.
Yeah. So Dean Furman will probably end up travelling with him.
Yep. The games take place on the 13th and 16th of November. That means Furman will miss the Carlisle games against Cheltenham and Villa under-23s in the end. Oh, God, I'm going to have to say, don't I? The Papa John's Trophy. That's unbelievable.
Obviously, South Africa have named their squad early, and it wouldn't be a surprise if, say, next week we're talking about another call-up for Coyote and Dewhurst again. And could it be the point that we could actually claim for a postponement if we have 3 call-ups?
I mean, to be honest, if we did that, I'd only want to do it for the league game. I don't see any point in doing the trophy game. Just get that out of the way because we're out of the competition anyway.
Yeah.
Just get that game played. Stick the young lads in if you have to.
Yeah.
Give Lewis Bell a run out.
Yeah.
But yeah, so he'll definitely miss those 2 games. Be interesting to see whether he has to self-isolate when he comes back, though, because that would mean he maybe miss a couple more.
Yeah, the lad from Rangers, the reason I mentioned him was he was on Sky Sports News yesterday as just having completed 2 weeks isolation after signing. So it seems very mixed that some players have to, some players don't. I wonder if it was because he was in Scotland, who were obviously doing their own response to the whole COVID-19, as a devolved nation.
I do wonder if we might be like paying for extra tests just to make sure he's okay when he comes back. So,
yeah.
So
or FIFA stroke UEFA, etc., are helping with the costs of all this, because they're the ones who want international football on.
Yeah, indeed. Okay, so that's international call-up rounded up. So next up, FA Youth Cup. So United's under-18s will face Chester FC in the first round of this year's competition. It can decide will be in action on Wednesday, the 4th of November. Kick-off 6 p.m. at Brunton Park. Now, this game is going to be behind closed doors, isn't it, Dan? We're not 100% certain if it's going to be streamed live or not, but we do know, obviously, that the club bought some equipment in pre-season, didn't they? That allows them to do live streams away from the iFollow model.
Yeah, the Carlisle United Supporters Group initiative helped buy the club some equipment for streaming, and it was initially in response to Gateshead saying we couldn't do it, and that wasn't it, and it'd be a perfect opportunity, so hopefully something gets sorted.
I hope so, because it'd be nice to see the lads in action, because I try and get down to a couple of games a season, just see if there's any good prospects coming through.
Yeah, but they're always decent little games, and I'm just thinking we've got a midweek match again next week coming thick and fast, so we'll probably have an update on that in the episode recorded on Monday.
Yeah, hopefully we'll drop the cover message and see what the situation is with that. It'd be a real shame if people didn't get to see some of these lads in action, because by all accounts there are some decent talented lads in there. Obviously we've mentioned Lewis Bell previously, haven't we? So yeah. Okay, Dan, I think that's a news roundup for now. I don't think you've got anything else really I can think of that we need to discuss.
No, not off the top of my head.
No, indeed. Well, let's move on to the match review then. So we're looking back at the Morecambe game, the midweek one. United were 3-1 winners against the Shrimps. Pretty quick start to this game, though, wasn't it, Dan? It's fair to say. 2 goals in 3 minutes.
I doubt many fans will have had a chance to sort of get set in the seats by the time we took the lead and recovering from the shock of that, and we go 2-0 up. So it was incredibly quick start, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. So the result actually leaves us at 4th in the table after 9 games with 17 points and a +3 goal difference. Currently 5 points behind first place Newport County, who we play obviously next Tuesday, and 1 point behind third place Forest Green Rovers, who we've still yet to play this season. We picked out some of the main talking points ourselves here, Dan, as well, but we've also dropped a couple in that people suggested on the Be Just and Fear Not face group. First one, obviously, as we mentioned there, out of the blocks. What a fine start that was for the game. The own goal came after 23 seconds, and Mellish's goal was just 2 minutes later. That isn't our quickest goal of all time, though. I know at least one that's quicker, and that David Curry scored after 20 seconds against Shrewsbury in 1996. I was digging that one out, and I was looking back at some of the goals he scored that season. Curry were unbelievable. You think about him in 94-95, but that season he was brilliant as well.
Jamie Devitt scored a quick one the other season as well, didn't he?
28 seconds, I think that one was.
I think I was going to say it was about 30 seconds roughly, yeah.
I mean, the problem is we've only really got highlights going back to summer of 1988, I think it is, isn't it? The ones we've got. And then there's a bit of a gap as well. Strangely enough, it's weird this, how there's a gap from about 2000 until about maybe 2009-ish when they started regularly doing the highlights a bit better. Obviously, we've got 2005 and 6 as well, but it's kind of weird, isn't it? There's quite big gaps.
Are you trying to say that the period under John Courtney was organised chaos there?
Possibly that, but also I think it's also it's more an EFL thing as much as anything. Things were not centrally stored very well.
No,
I've got some of the highlights from around about that time, but the quality is absolutely atrocious.
Was it not also an ITV thing back then as well?
Yeah, it was Satanta Sport as well, ITV Digital, so it's all a bit of a mess, really. That's the problem. So it's difficult, and sometimes it's hard to find out what minute the goals were scored in as well. So if anyone out there can remember a quicker goal that's in the last 32 years or so, we might be able to dig the highlights out and just double check it. So drop us a message in the usual channels and we'll have a look for it. But how important do you reckon, Dan, our aggressive play has been this season? Because the thing that stands out for those goals is, particularly the first one, John Mellish is really aggressive on the press to get the ball away to Alessandra, to obviously then lay it off to Coyote for the cross. It's quite impressive, isn't it?
I think it's something we must have been working on, because you look at 2 or 3 of our games, and as soon as we kick off, we're at teams. There's no
settling down for a couple of minutes and seeing how it's going to shape up. We just seem to go at teams, and it seems to shock some of them, doesn't it? I mean, Morecambe haven't been doing too bad. I know they've lost away in the last couple of weeks, but that first 20 minutes, we absolutely overwhelmed them. And if we'd been 4 or 5-0 up in 20 minutes, they couldn't have complained.
No, not at all. Interesting. So I mentioned Mellis there, just briefly touching him again. He really is settling quite well into that midfield role now, isn't he? He looks comfortable. He doesn't look out of place in there. Even taking away the goals, the way he's playing, he's very aggressive on the front foot. He's playing the ball forward.
I would say it's still very raw. You know. There's still certainly chips around the edges that need ironed out, but obviously the goals will have helped him massively, settled him down, and it's getting to the point now when he gets the ball sort of 20-25 yards out, you're expecting something to happen, you know.
Yeah. The thing is as well, if we're going to be playing this quite aggressive and at sometimes direct play, he probably is the ideal person to have in that midfield, really. He's going to make an impact on games because of that. Next up, Greg Bowman, our friend of ours, he wanted us to talk about two individual performances, particularly George Tanner and Callum Guy. We've talked about Callum Guy quite a bit recently, haven't we, really? So I think we all agree he's been brilliant over the last month or so, and the fact that he hasn't scored means he probably won't be up for it, but he probably should be up for League 2 Player of the Month, really, then this month. He's been that good for us. But let's talk about George Tanner, the other player I wanted us to talk about. So Tanner, we said at the start of the season that we were a little bit worried that he was quite timid and struggling to really get to grips with playing regularly at this level, even though he had that loan spell at Morecambe last season, of course. But over the last few games, I think as a defensive unit, they really are starting to come together, and he really is growing into that position, isn't he? And took his goal brilliantly as well. And it's not just that, though. Defensively, he's so much more aware now, and he's not taking stupid risks, is he? He's getting rid when he has to.
I think some of what I said about, obviously, when he went to Salford in the second half of last season and didn't feature because of injury, I mentioned last time I was on, maybe just took a couple of weeks to settle himself down, you know, because he was coming back from injury, again, like Callum Guy, and now he's hit full stride. I mean, scoring your first league goal against the team where you made your league debut, it's not a bad way to finish the game, was it?
No, not at all. And the only one slight criticism I'd have is I still think a little bit more often he should be taking on his man and getting a ball into the box, but he's definitely got better at that. He's definitely feels a bit more belief in his play, isn't there, really, in the way he's approaching the final third.
It could be that Chris Beach has told him not to do that.
True.
You know,
it's one of those things that quite infuriates me about modern football, and so many sort of wing players and fullbacks just seem so reluctant to just get the ball into the box quite often. Yeah. And we know that Beach wants us to get balls into the box and be a bit more direct, so sometimes you think to yourself, to the players, just have a go. Yeah. Jimmy Turner is brilliant at that. He just gets the ball in the box when he has to. He's very aware. Next up, so I want to talk about defensive solidity, but dodgy on set play. So another game really where we generally look quite solid in defence, but it's the second game in a row we've conceded from a set piece from a corner, and there's been a few other goals this season, hasn't it, like that? So is that a slight concern maybe that we're not quite switched on set pieces yet? Possibly.
I mean, they got the goal back, and there was a period where they sort of threatened to come back into it. As it was, we broke away and Tanner put it beyond doubt. But yeah, it's maybe just something for the training ground, you know. Are the players still not quite sure of where they're meant to be for set pieces against certain teams, or is someone miscommunicating? But it should come in the next few weeks, I would hope.
Yeah, I mean, the other aspects of our defensive game definitely improved in terms of those, particularly the centre-back partnerships really coming along. The two full-backs are looking more settled. So maybe it's just the next step is to get ourselves sorted on set pieces. And I mean, Farmer's looking so much better as well. And he's making key saves at key times in games, isn't he? That one in particular, I think, was it Adam Phillips, I think, when he got through on goal?
Yeah.
So one of the few moments in the game, actually, where Aaron Hayden switched off a little bit and stood off the ball and let the lad come through. So yeah. Next up, so time to freshen up. Now, this one from Chris Gibson, who's one of the moderators on the Be Just and Fear Not group. He asked this question. So, is it a bit of a dilemma for Chris Beach at the moment, in that the side's looking a little bit tired at the moment, but they're on a 6-game unbeaten run, and you know what the old adage is, you don't change an unbeaten side.
Yeah.
When do you stick or twist?
Yeah, I was just going to say it's a classic stick or twist thing, isn't it? You know, because there is times when some of our players are looking a bit leggy. You know, Toure doesn't seem to last 90 minutes very often. Furman coming on seems to be his default substitution in the middle. It's I can understand not changing a winning team, but a winning team is able to withstand the odd change at the same time.
That's true.
I mean, it's a tricky one, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah, in recent games, we sort of mentioned that Coyote was looking a little bit off the boil and maybe needed a rest. But actually, I thought against Morecambe, even though he didn't really have a goal threat, it was probably one of his best games for a while. He playing out wide, he tracked back brilliantly, and obviously set up the opening goal as well. I do wonder, I think sort of agree with you, I think maybe Toure a little bit of a rest and you throw him on for the last half an hour games against a tired defence. I mean, if they've been up against Gavin Riley as well before that, most likely, they're not going to really want to have to face up then against the trickery of Toure.
As I was just saying, Furman's sort of a default setting at the moment, and Riley for Toure seems to be the other one, doesn't it? You know, maybe switch them round for a game. But
yeah, I mean, we sort of mentioned, didn't we? I think in previous episodes that Beach still doesn't seem to quite have worked out when to make subs, if you see what I mean. In terms of it's a difficult one for new managers because you come into it and it's all right when you're assistant. You can make all the suggestions you want, can't you, to the manager? Oh, I think we should throw him on now, or we should do this. When you're the one making the decision, your head's on the line. It's a little bit tougher, and sometimes it takes managers a little bit of a while to work out when they should be making subs in games. And I did think maybe on Tuesday night again that you probably could have done with a sub a little bit earlier than we did get one. So I do wonder if Furman might come in for this game at the weekend, actually, to make us a little bit more solid against a better side. And obviously knowing that he's going to be away anyway for a couple of weeks, may as well get him in now, get a few games under his belt, and then he can go away on his international duty. But But then again, maybe you'd argue you'd stick with the side because you don't want to have to chop and change it again in a couple of weeks. It's tough. It is tough for Beach, but the main thing to take from it is we're now 6 games unbeaten. Arguably the form side in the division. Only Newport have got better form of the last 6 games, and they've lost a game in that time. Up to 4th. There's not really much to complain about. We're not playing particularly well, but we are playing okay. We're just not quite hit top gear yet, have we? That's a good sign, I suppose. Isn't it,
like we've said a couple of times, we're creating chances, and I know we scored 3 on Tuesday, but 3 should have been 4 or 5, really, shouldn't it? And one of these weeks soon, we're going to absolutely wallop someone.
Absolutely. The missed chances is a bit frustrating, but as you say, I think especially when someone like maybe Riley gets his first goal, that'll make a big difference. And you know, like I said, if Guy can get one as well, and I just think you might start to see suddenly everybody's confidence lift in the team. And like we mentioned before, you got the likes of Patrick to come back as well. So you know, got to take confidence in that. I think that's it, Dan. Have you got anything else you want to talk about from the game?
No, not that I can think of immediately.
No, okay, Dan. Then that's the end of part 1 of the episode. We're going to go take a short break, and after which we'll be back to look ahead to the long trip down to Exeter City this weekend. Welcome back, everyone, and we're into part 2 now, where we're going to be looking ahead to one of the longest trips of the season this weekend against Exeter City. I don't think it's the longest these days, is it, Dan? I think, bizarrely, Crawley Town is a little bit longer in terms of the distance you travel, probably because of the fact you have to go around the M25 to get there, but I think Crawley's a little bit longer now. It's
still hardly a jog down the M6, so is it?
No, certainly not. It's better, though, than Plymouth, because for Plymouth, it's almost motorway all the way to Exeter, isn't it? Whereas Plymouth, there's that last little bit of a slog that's on A roads.
Yeah.
So it's not particularly fun. Okay, so let's have the interesting facts. Exeter City were formed in 1904, same year as United, actually, when Exeter United and St Sidwell's United joined forces to establish a new side. The only ground they have ever played home games at is St James's Park. I always think it's a bit weird with them, with St James's Park, and obviously they've redeveloped it in recent years. In a city that size, you've got a football club and decent level rugby union club with 2 separate grounds. Well, an odd one, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I mean the rugby team especially are best team in Britain at the moment, and they're probably taking a bit of fan base from football fans, I would say, even at the moment. But
I love this one. In 1914, Exeter City travelled to South America, where they had the honour of playing the Brazil national side. Was that the first team to play the Brazil national side? Something like that, weren't they, I think?
Yeah.
There was a big fuss made about it, because I think, didn't they play like a Brazil legend side about...
Yeah.
I think for their centenary they did that. And what did we get for our centenary? I can't even remember. We didn't get anything, did we, in the end? It was a bit
we were rumoured to play Real Sociedad at one point,
wasn't
we?
it?
But,
was it not Racing Santander?
Oh, it was one of the Spanish teams, and it was around the time that Mr. X was meant to sign as well, wasn't it? And
never worked out, did it? It was a bit of a shambles, wasn't it? They were relegated to the conference in 2003, but promoted back again in 2008. They've been in the league ever since. They are a fan-owned club, aren't they, I think?
Yeah.
They've completely renovated their ground over the last few years. And the job they've done is actually really good, isn't it, when you look at it, especially with that big terracing behind the goal. And one of the reasons they've been able to do that is they've invested so much in the youth setup there, haven't they? And they've made so much money off it too, like the likes of, I think it's Grimes going to Swansea and Ampadu to Chelsea. And I'm sure they've had a couple more as well.
They have.
Harley, I think it is it.
Yeah, they've made several million in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, and they've invested it wisely.
Yeah, and like I said, they've got a ground now where they don't really need to do any major works to it, do they? So
I mean, Christ, they've even put a cover on the away end these days. So.
It's a proper terrace though, isn't it?
Yeah,
it used to be just a few steps and some weird chicken wire fence, wasn't it? Behind
you could climb the trees over the road and watch if you wanted.
Well, should have done that this weekend, shouldn't we? Really?
Yeah,
a good one. Celebrity fans, you've dug these ones out for me, Dan, haven't you?
Yeah, well, Exeter City, you can't not mention the day that Uri Geller turned up with Michael Jackson and David Blaine in tow, which just if you're not aware of this story, just Google it, because it's
incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely crackers.
Yeah.
And away from that bizarre trio, Joss Stone, the singer.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that quite the motley crew there, isn't it? Really? Head to heads. We've only ever played one cup game against them, which 2 cup games against them. We've drawn one and lost one. I'm guessing that there was a replay probably.
Yeah.
Looking at overall, we haven't got a particularly great record against them, have we? Really, they're one of those bogey teams. Always entertaining games against them, though, isn't it? There's always goals, but the record is basically, in all games, is 19 wins to us, 18 draws, and 26 wins to Exeter. So we're struggling a little bit behind at the moment. Our last trip to Exeter came in August 2018, because we didn't play them away last season, did we?
No,
because of the season we called off.
Yeah.
We lost 3-1 in John Sheridan's first competitive fixture charge. Richie Bennett scored the United goal that day. A rare sight that was, I imagine. Yeah, a team we sort of thought would maybe have a little bit of a playoff hangover again this season, but they've started okay, haven't they, really?
Yeah, they're doing well. I've just been looking at the form, and 6 games in October. They've basically won the 3 home games and drawn the 3 away games. So it sounds as though they're set up to win at home, and they're setting up to take the point away from home. And it draws at Leyton Orient and Walsall, solid enough opponents. They'll probably be a bit disappointed at drawing at Southend.
Yeah, not one you want to look at, is it, really?
I think that was a 95th minute equaliser for Exeter as well.
Yeah,
so.
It was a close one, I remember that.
Yeah.
But obviously, one of the wins was a 2-0 win over Cambridge United. They're the only team that's beaten Cambridge United this season, aren't they? So quite impressive on that one. They're currently, also you mentioned they're 6th in the form table. They're also 6th place in the normal table on 16 points, 2 places and 1 point behind United.
I would say this is probably, obviously, when we got beat at Cambridge, we didn't know they were going to go so well. This is probably the first sort of test of our team.
Yeah, it's the first, particularly with being away from home as well.
Yeah.
And our record against them is not particularly great.
Yeah.
It will be a tough test, and it'll be interesting, obviously, to see whether Beach does make any changes and how they're going to line up. Their manager is Matt Taylor. We mentioned this in the League Two season preview, but we'll just repeat it again. He had a quite unusual career path, didn't he? He started out, he came through Preston, he's from Chorley, he came through Preston North End's academy as a goalkeeper. He did the sort of non-league Northwest circuit. He won the FA, was it FA Trophy or FA Vars, one of the two, with Burscough, playing as a goalkeeper. And I think his manager at Burscough was Sean Teal for a short while. Right. So he did all that, and then he started uni. And when he went to uni, he was playing, I think, for Sheffield Hallam, where he was at uni, for their team, as a defender, as a centre-back. And he was spotted by the guy who runs Team Bath, who quite famously, got to the FA Cup first round, didn't they, a few years back?
Yeah.
Now, he convinced him to come down and do another, like a sort of master's degree down for Team Bath, playing as a centre-back, and he did so well there. I think quite a few players, didn't they? They moved from Team Bath to Exeter, didn't they?
Yeah.
About that time. And he's one of them, and he moved to Exeter, and he became a really popular player there. He had a spell at Charlton as well, and then he eventually returned to Exeter as manager after spending a bit of time as player coach at Bath City. That's the other team in Bath, I should say. He's done okay so far. He's sort of carried on really where Tisdale left off, hasn't he, really? He's done a steady job there, but every season they just don't seem to be able to get over that final hurdle of promotion in the playoffs, do they?
No, and they've, like as we sort of said for the pre-season, there has to be a year where they do sort of slip back, and we did wonder if it would be this season because a lot of the sort of names you associate with them in the last couple of years moved on, but fair play to them that they're doing as well this season so far.
Indeed. They have actually made an emergency loan signing this week, haven't they? They've brought in Icelandic youth international keeper Jokul Andersson, from Reading to cover for injuries. They actually had a 15-year-old as their backup keeper at the weekend, apparently, which is crazy, really.
Yeah, that is.
That's quite mad, isn't it? So clearly they did need to bring someone in because I think the first choice keeper basically was playing through an injury over the last couple of games, which makes it all the more impressive that they didn't lose
Andersson
those games.
is an Icelandic under-19 international as well.
That's the one, yes. I knew something like that. Like we said in the season preview, that they've still got a pretty decent squad, haven't they? And Rory McArdle was one who didn't do that well at Scunthorpe, but always been a decent defender and decent bit of experience they brought in over the summer. Luce Page, who's a good left back from Charlton, they signed. I mean, Pierce Sweeney's always been a decent defender there as well. And when you look through the rest of the squad, there's good players there. Nicky Law's always been a quality player.
Jake Taylor's the one that stands out for me. He's obviously been there a while now, but he's scored in the last 3 games, so he's obviously on form at the moment. And
their squad does also feature 2 ex-United players, and that's Ryan Bowman and Tom Parkes. He's done well for himself, Ryan, hasn't he, really, considering he was sort of let go and sort of went into non-league after leaving us. So
yeah, he's been at a fair few clubs from memory now, hasn't he?
Is he married to a lass from down that way, isn't he?
Possibly.
That's why I think he moved back there.
I remember him doing sort of York and Gateshead. He was at Darlington. I think he was at Hereford and Torquay as well.
He went to Motherwell, didn't he?
And then he was at Motherwell for 2.5 years before moving down to Exeter. And he was one when he came through at Carlisle. A lot was thought of him, and we were a League One team then, and he just wasn't that level at the time. And I think if he'd came through now, he would probably have done better.
Yeah,
with being in League Two.
Yeah, and with your likes of round about then would have been what your likes of your Lee Millers, your Zokos, your Loys, your whatnot. He was always going to struggle to get into the team ahead of them, wasn't he? I think.
Yeah. And in Tom Parkes, you've just got the quintessential solid lower league central defender, haven't you? He did his years at Bristol Rovers, a year at Orient, 2 solid seasons for us, and he's by all accounts he's been fairly solid for Exeter.
I always think he was quite a good player on the ball. He was quite a good complement to sort of a stopping centre back next to him because he could bring the ball out a little bit, couldn't he? So
and he always chipped in with the occasional goal as well.
He did. Okay, so that's sort of general sort of preview chat done. Bit of team news. Nothing new for United by the looks of things, is there? We haven't heard anything.
No, I assume Beach Beach normally does his press conference on a Thursday when we're recording, so it's not the best for us. But we don't expect it to be much difference this week.
So injuries, as we previously said, Ethan Walker and Brennan Dickinson are both out until the new year. Amari Patrick and Josh Dixon are still sort of working their way back to full fitness, and I think that's it at the moment. Obviously, you've got your 4 lads who are on loan, haven't you? The first year pros. I think the only first year pros left at the club now is Charters and Tom Wilson, isn't it? I think Tom Wilson's injured still, so he probably won't feature until the new year either, I guess.
No.
Exeter's team has not been able to find any, to be brutally honest. There's nothing online yet, but
we're not very good at this part, are we?
No. Well, it's very dependent on the opposition getting the stuff out there as well. I think they have some concerns regarding COVID though, because they played Scunthorpe quite recently, didn't they? So with all the positive tests at Scunthorpe, I think they're keeping an eye on that just to see whether any players are affected.
I think that's gonna be the story at a lot of clubs for the
It amazes me
foreseeable.
There's been nothing at CUFC yet, really, at Carlisle.
Yeah.
I mean, but then again, we're probably a bit more isolated than other clubs, so maybe it helps a little bit in that sense. But yeah, so predictions, Dan.
Well, why change the habit of a lifetime? And let's be honest, you would take a 1-1 draw in this game.
And who's going to score then?
I will go for
own goal.
Callum Guy.
Callum Guy, okay.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm on the wagon with you. I'm going for it. 1-1 this weekend, I reckon. Goal scored by Josh Coyote.
He's due one. He's due one,
and he played well in the week.
I think as well, once he gets one, a couple might follow.
Yeah, I'd imagine I can see that happening. Although typically he'll get one, get another, and then he'll go on international duty and he'll be missing for a few games.
Yeah.
He sorts the law. So yeah. Okay, it's on to the next bit. Is the X-Files, looking at what former United players and coaches have been getting up to across the world. Only really got a couple this week, haven't we? First one there is quite a landmark goal, wasn't it?
Yeah. Patrick Brough scored a daisy cutter for Barrow in their first. I think it was his first league goal in Barrow's first league win for nearly 50 years. So, and also the Mansfield manager got sacked after the game.
He did. I always thought it was a very weird appointment for Mansfield. You know, they went out their way to poach him from Bristol Rovers, and he's not really done anything particularly special there, had he? He's not like one you think there's someone who's definitely going to get you out of this division. Bristol Rovers was his first job, Coughlin, and like I said, he hadn't done much. But reportedly, I think he lived round the Mansfield way, so it made sense for him to move back. But he clearly just wasn't up to the job as manager. And you know, did we predict they would do well this season? I think.
Yeah, and I think we said they'd do all right, but they're just doing nothing, are they?
No, they're very archetypal of a squad at this team at this level that just tries to throw money at it, don't they, to get up, and it just does not work that way sometimes. But yeah, and obviously
the only other one is starting to become a bit regular. Charlie White scoring yet again for Sunderland. I think that's 6 in 10 games this season for him.
Can't stop,
I think every time we mention him, he scores. So I think I might back him for first goal at the weekend.
Not a ex-Blue because he's still on the books here, but probably worth giving a shout out to Charlie Birch, who scored his first goal for Kendal the other day. Well done to him. He seems, by all accounts, the lads are doing pretty well up down at Kendal. Obviously, we've sort of said there's a concern that, you know, is that the end of their Carlisle United career? Sometimes you worry, don't you? But, you know, by all accounts, they're doing well. And I think having half a season there is the best thing for them. Go for 1 month's no good, really. It's
proper football. They're playing regularly. I know Jamie Armstrong's also made the move down now. And, you know, it's the problem with not having a reserve team is these lads don't get any games. So to be involved in a match day, you know, it can only be good for them.
Indeed it can. I think that's it for this week, Dan. Thank you once again for joining me. Always appreciated. If you haven't seen already, the special episode with John Coleman, the interview about his new book, Bolts from the Blues, is now available to download from all the usual places. If I do say so myself, I think it's a really cracking listen. It's really interesting to hear from John about his process of actually of writing the book, how he decided on, you know, which goals he wanted and things like that. Also talking just about what it's been like reporting on United during these very strange times, and was really, really good to have a catch up with John. I would recommend you go and listen to it. I don't know if you have
definitely worth a listen. Yeah, I listened to it while tidying my bathroom earlier.
Oh, very nice indeed. I know we keep saying it, but we are going to do the kids special soon. You're just tidying up the scripty bits for it, and we'll get onto it soon. So if you've got any comments or feedback, or there's anything you'd like to suggest we discuss, please send them in with the usual channels. So on Twitter it's @BruntonBugle, and by email it's bruntonbugle@gmail.com. If you haven't already, please remember you can subscribe to the podcast. All the usual podcast apps have it, so your Spotify, your Google Podcasts, your Apple Podcasts, your Acast, things like that. They should all have it. Just search for Brunton Bugle and click the subscribe button. And also, if you can give us a review, we'd really appreciate it. Even more so if you give us 5 stars. It's always very much welcomed. Time for the map, Dan.
Any new ones?
I don't think there is,
I know of a couple of listeners who this is one of their favourite parts.
It doesn't look like it. Germany's still on 1. So, big Tommy Muller's still listening. No, just Cyprus, Sweden, Denmark, Canada. That'd probably be Tim, I'd imagine, wouldn't it? These are all the countries, basically. Chile, Portugal, Netherlands, Ireland, New Zealand, Norway, Vietnam, Australia, United States, and, of course, United Kingdom by far on top. We've got quite a few listeners in the USA, though, so good to hear our
good.
USA soccer fans are listening. Just looking down through the list here, quite of the places in the UK where people are listening, quite a few different places. Liverpool used to be near the top, but it's not now. Carlisle's obviously top, then London. Dumfries, it's quite high up. Clearly Queen of the South are not that interesting to people north of the border. What kind of places? Shadwell, Epsom. I'm just going to be listing places in the UK now, aren't I? I could go on for ages. Newton-the-Willows, which is down the road from me. Shepherd's Bush, Cleator Moor. All the places in the UK, everyone's listening. Really appreciate it. Yeah, so we'll be back, I think early next week. We'll probably try and do a quick preview show about the Newport game, and then obviously we'll look ahead to the Hayes and Yeading one. Week after that, we won't be doing a preview show for the trophy tie because we really couldn't give a shit about it.
We'll be too busy ordering Domino's pizza that night.
Domino's loyal all the way. If you're pizza based, clap your hands. So that's probably the schedule for the next few weeks. Frankly, it'll calm down a little bit, so there'll be a bit more of a gap between episodes. But we'll have those specials coming as well, so I look forward to putting them out. So, Dan, thanks once again for listening. Look forward to the game this weekend. Going to be a good one, hopefully. And up the Blues.
Up the Blues.